You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
Welcome back to the show. I'm joined in studio now by Shane Lenihan of Viva Architecture. Shane, start by giving me a flavour of your own career today, please.
I was born and raised in Kerry, North Kerry, there outside Listowel, so always interested in architecture from the age of 4, drawing houses. Moved on, went through secondary school. Remember always wanting to study architecture. I remember a time in secondary school they said to me that I needed to learn German as a language because all architecture at the time was happening in Germany. So I learned German. I did it for the Leaving Cert, which is very apt at the moment. And after the Leaving Cert, I got a college course in Scotland. So I moved over there to study architecture. 6 years over there, studying away, and eventually came back to Ireland. It was the height of the boom. There's great job opportunities. It was an exciting time to be an architect, and all the Germans were in Ireland, so my German proved very helpful at the time. And started working with a multinational company in Limerick. We worked on all sorts of great projects, from hospitals to master planning 3,000 units, so little towns almost. Master planning to lovely hotels. It was a great time. There was great energy out there for architecture and the types of jobs. Everyone was busy and it was great going.
So tell me, how did you end up coming to Wexford?
Met a Wexford person. I was 7 years in Limerick, and I was back and forth to Wexford. So it was either I was going to set up in Limerick. That was my ambition. I always set up my own practice, or and bring my partner to Limerick. But we ultimately decided Wexford is the place to settle down, and that's when I started 2 years ago, Viva Architecture.
So you set it up in 2011. Probably not the best time in the world to set up an architectural practice. What made you set it up at the time and not look for the easy option of going back into employment?
Yeah, I suppose at the time I had a job, and I was probably the only architect to leave their job in the middle of the recession. But it was always a burning ambition, for myself to have to meet the clients myself and to really work with my own practice and develop from there. So it was the perfect opportunity for me to set up here in Wexford. New opportunities, new area, new environment, and I took it from there.
Okay, so tell me about the first year in business. How tough was it?
Yeah, the first year was very tough. It's like any business starting up, but there's great support networks, particularly in Wexford out there. And I think people need to really, investigate what's there, what's available. I went with the Enterprise Board. I was introduced to start up your own business program, and that ran for the autumn. So that was a great beginning, and it really, because I suppose you went from being an architect to suddenly a business person, marketing, financial side of it, bookkeeping, all these sort of things, that were suddenly put on my plate, and it's a huge knowledge to have to acquire suddenly. So there is a great network out there, as I was saying, and you got Wexford Local Development as well, and I got some funding through them, which was fantastic, because everything at the beginning of your practice, you're trying to set up a business, trying to acquire facilities and items for the business to help it run. It's a huge cost burden and investment onto yourself, time-wise and everything else, and it's about making use of what's out there. There was great smaller programs with Wexford Local Development as well, and that it really introduced me to the whole concept of internet marketing and social medias that were particularly far afield in my world at the time. And that really got me going there, and also the idea of taxation and bookkeeping, and it was great grassroots, just to start up with the business. So that was really the first couple of months. I ploughed into the whole time researching what was out there, how to run the business effectively and efficiently, and try and get as much funding and supports that are available out there for the business to succeed. And through that, and through the supports that I got, it has helped succeed the business.
Shane, it's refreshing to hear somebody saying that they've actually gone out there and researched the relevant supports that are available, because too often I meet people in business that didn't know that supports existed because they failed to actually carry out the research in the first place to identify those relevant supports. But I'd like to ask you, you entered into quite a crowded market in architecture, in the architectural world, and from that perspective, the demand for architects was certainly 60-70% down on what it was in the boom. How did you compete in such a crowded market?
Yeah, well, one of the first things you have to look at is how to market the business. Start from the very beginning. I mean, what's the best way? Marketing, you can put as much money as you want into it, plough everything into it, but you have to be smart when you're starting up. You've limited funds, and I suppose what I looked at really was what worked for me. It's not like a shop or something where people can come in and try it out. For architecture, it's a service you're providing, so it was a lot more. I suppose I had to get my name out there. What way to get my name out there is a good strong brand, a good strong logo. That was one of the first things that I identified. Then from that, just putting my business cards into every notice board around the county, just to let my name be seen, the company be seen around. Simple little things like putting the name on the car. It's a small investment, but the car is driving all the time. So, it's little things like that, just to be smart about it. And when advertising opportunities arise from local papers or radio stations, all that, is to grab them, to grab the ones that will work for you, and to kind of get your research into what will work. And gradually your name will get out there, my name got out there, and I started getting clients coming in, which was great.
That's certainly very encouraging. So that was 2011. You're in business now at this stage, 2 years. How has the last 12 months been for you?
And the last 12 months have been great. It's constant, steady rise. I've just taken on my first employee there in the last couple of weeks, and it's great to see that you're bringing back the investment that's put into me by everyone. Coming to my business is now coming back into society, by employing people, and it's great to see that turnaround and how an economy will work locally, within the county.
From your insights into the market, Shane, do you think that there's a shift, a positive shift in the construction sector out there today?
Yes, something is happening, all right. Yeah, there's definitely more of a demand now for my services at the moment in Wexford. I mean, just after saying there that I've taken on an employee, that's a sure sign. Business is organically growing steadily, but particularly within the last 3 or 4 months, I've particularly had a lot of people come to me that they're just after purchasing houses, and within the next couple of weeks, and they want to know, could they make it this word comfortable is what they're using, which is great to hear that it's not just energy saving or saving money and fuel or on bills and that, but they want to make their homes comfortable. There's a lot happening out there, and particularly smaller businesses are coming to me as well in the last couple of months that they don't want the new big huge state-of-the-art facility. But what they do want, this is what we have, this is where we want to be in the next 2 years. How can we achieve that with realistic money involved? Because I think that where people are spending money now, they're a bit smarter. There's a bit more of a necessity to be clever about it, about where people are spending the money into their businesses or in their homes as well. And that's where they come for me, I suppose, for the overall answer, whatever their question is.
There's been lots of changes happen in the market itself, in the construction sector over the last number of years. What would you see to be the most fundamental? Yeah,
one of the biggest areas would be definitely the green energy and the whole energy efficiency of buildings, whether they're your commercial business or your home. And I suppose it's targeted an awful lot at homes, and people are realising, as I said earlier, this word of comfort, which is great to hear that they don't want the drafts within it. So there's huge technology advances as well, and I suppose people have the time, including the builders have the time to actually reflect on the latest regulations and to be able to implement them in a proper, meaningful way. We're not as crazy in the building industry that we were, so we can actually monitor and see how this is progressing at the moment. It's a huge change in the construction industry, all the regulations that are changing now at the moment within the energy.
We were never short of regulations in this country. One thing we were certainly short of is policing. Is there any shift and any change coming in that respect?
Yeah, there's new building regulations coming out now. I think they're due out about before next Easter, and there's far more onus on the architect for, I suppose, responsibility to ensure that things are constructed correctly and in the proper manner. People are spending so much money now on new windows, new insulation and higher insulation, but it's a simple thing of the wrong positioning of the windows can totally affect your investment that you're making. And it's this sort of thing now that the architect can do, and there will be more onus on the architect to supervise it, and onus on people to have an architect on board to supervise these things and ensure that the quality of construction.
Yes, construction seems to be getting that little bit more scientific every year. Do you find that the likes of the tradespeople supporting the architect in relation to the projects is keeping up to date with how fast the technologies and the materials themselves are changing?
Yeah, it is very difficult now to keep up because there is, I suppose you have to train, every builder will have to train their employees and train themselves up and the regulations, and it's continuously changing, and it will be more so between here and 2018. It'll be, there's massive changes going to occur, and I suppose that's where we're constructing now for the regulations today, but we really should be looking at the regulations in 2018, and that's where I suppose we're very lucky in Wexford that there are numerous builders in the whole area of passive house of people and zero energy or zero carbon emissions is the right word for homes, and there are builders who come to me and have a special pride in that they've achieved a blower door test, or air tightness is the latest buzzword, and they've achieved this, and they will tell me that, and I suppose one of the only ways of achieving it is just careful attention to detail and careful attention to how the building is constructed, and it's not very difficult to achieve. There are builders out there that are coming to me and they're very proficient on this at the moment. So Wexford is great for that, and the builders are competent in that area.
Excellent. Well, that's good to hear. Talk to me about a passive house. What does that mean for the benefit of our listeners that haven't heard the term before, or maybe have heard it, but it seems to be some type of a foreign term to them?
Yeah, I suppose it was developed in Germany 20 years ago, so it's not brand new technology. It's just a simple way of looking at how to use insulation and how to look at the details of how a house is constructed to stop cold bridging. Now, cold bridging is what we all feel when we sit down, the cold shoulder or the draft coming up along the neck, when we're sitting down, just this uncomfort. And basically what a passive house is just extremely comfortable. Also, to benefit that, it's also very low in energy. You're looking at heating a house energy bills for €200 a year, and in the increasing climate of fuel, of higher fuel costs, I mean it's something that we really need to be working towards, and it's ultimately what the government will be working towards. Whether they call it passive house or call it some other name, it'll be what the regulations are by the end of this decade. So it's not down the road. So anyone who's constructing now really should be, whether you're constructing or even renovating your house, really should be looking at these standards, so that in 10 years' time they don't have to go back and do it all again. Do it once, do it right, and that's what people should be gearing towards, is this level of passive house standard, or trying to achieve as close to it as possible.
From speaking to others in the construction sector over the last number of months, it seems that there's a turning point in relation to new builds going ahead now, especially for those building on, let's say, parents' land. Have you noticed that yourself, Shane?
Yeah, particularly in the last couple of months there, people have approached me on that. I think there was 6 years of a lull almost now at this stage of where the construction industry, people stop building, and there's almost a 6 years of a backlog of people settling down, people wanting to either build or purchase, and And from that, yeah, there is, I suppose, people trying to be more cost effective or whatever it is. It's on their own land or making use of available land to them to look at. And I think it must be as well that there is, I suppose, a better, maybe we're entering a climate of more favourable lending. Perhaps there might be a change in that.
In relation to the renovations and upgrades of existing stock, are we looking at young couples with young families between 30 and 40 years of age? Are we looking at the grey euro, the 60 plus age group that are investing in this?
No, definitely it's the 30 plus and the people who've bought houses in the last 10 years, and they have a family that's increasing in size. And I suppose ultimately years ago they may have moved house within the area, whereas now that's probably not available. That option isn't available to them. And whether it's a 3-bed semi that was designed for the homogeneous, whatever the house is, it can be easily tailored to meet people's needs and housing needs and demands. And I think that's one of the biggest areas. Also, one of the biggest things is that comfort, that word comfort. People are coming to me and want to make their homes more comfortable, and that would be through insulation or better windows and a starting point, and then they look at renovating and just changing things around just for the moment. Their children are at different stages in their life. When they're 3 years of age, they want to have a room where they can throw all the toys into. When they become teenagers, they want a room where they can study, and before that it's the PlayStation room, and then afterwards when they go off to college, it's the retirement, it's the hobbies room. It changes. I mean, a house needs to adapt to people's needs and wants, and definitely there is that change at the moment where people are not readily willing or wanting to move, but they actually want to renovate their own place and make it comfortable, make their own homes theirs. And I think that they see now, particularly I suppose from TV programs and the demand and the information that's out there, they understand the what they can achieve within their own environments without having to up and leave and have that cost factor, and get better value actually as well of renovating their own place rather than having to move.
Shane, many thanks for speaking to us this morning, and I wish you every success with developing Viva architecture. Here at Business Matters, we want to hear your thoughts on the programme. You can contact me directly on Twitter at Karl Fitzpatrick. We're almost at closing time here at Business Matters, but before we go, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my production team, my guests for their contribution, and especially you for listening. Join me again next Saturday morning when I'll be speaking to more of the business leaders that you want to know more about. Stay tuned now, because coming up next is Alan Maguire on your number one station, Southeast Radio. Bye for now.
You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.